doing pretty good.
You know,
Blessed.
as you came in, Chris came early, y'all. Most people don't come in early, but she was early. But
Right.
you spent the majority of the time looking at this wall. What does this wall mean to you? I want to just start with that.
It means the world to me. This is Seattle history, all wrapped up here. The Jackson Street corridor, which is where the Black and Tan was located. The building still stands, but the Black and Tan, of course, closed in 1966. I'm just looking at Noodle Smith, this ladies' band here, the Great Al Smith collection that's at Mohai. You can see through their archives, and the Great Duke Ellington, the Esquires, just the whole community, strong black community of the 1930s, roughly through the 1960s, when the Black and Tan was in
Yeah,
operation.
I just had to just acknowledge that because you just say it for like the majority of the hour just watching it. So in this Black and Tan musical, it's so important bringing in our history to life. What made you come up with this concept for it?
Well, actually, that's a good question. I was doing some research on the Black and Tan, just because my older brothers and sisters had gone to the club right before it closed, and I wanted to know about the history of it, who founded it. And so when I was looking online, I ran across E. Russell Noodle Smith, who was a very intriguing character to me because there's not a lot about him, just a little paragraph. So I started digging deeper and deeper, and I came across a book written by Paul DeBarros, who I'll be walking with this coming weekend because we're doing a walk for the down Chinatown for the Jazz and Jackson Street corridor to start putting some markers there so this important history is not forgotten. But I started going through I got a book from him of his, and I started doing the research there, and it just ballooned into this big, wonderful, scenic of Seattle history from the era of Ray Charles, Quincy Jones, who all are graduates from Garfield. Um, Salute to Garfield for 100 years.
Okay.
Um, I'm a little jealous, but anyway, um, just that and just all the stories. So I took that research, made it into a play, and made the play about Russell Smith and his partners who were bright enough and rich enough men back in the early part of the 20th century to buy a nightclub. And also, he owned two hotels as well in the area.
Oh wow. So okay, so that's a lot of history, right? So was it really hard? Was it hard to find like the history of the Black and Tan? I mean, I just noticed like a couple of years ago, people started to resurface on like how to support Black and Tan, but I never really knew too much about the history.
Yes, well, I had to do a lot of digging,
Okay.
but and of course we have the internet now, which beats library cards back in my day. But the thing is just as one thing led to another, I was finding little more and more about Russell Noodle Smith, and also Blackie Williams, who was his business partner, and then I also noticed that there was a lot of celebrities that even still alive today, like the great Quincy Jones that performed at the Black and Tan.
Oh wow.
Aretha Franklin performed there at one time, and then my sister did a collection of paintings of all these greats who performed at the Black and Tan. Um, I think one of the other performers there was George Benson, and just a group of a lot of people. And I was like, wow, Seattle was popping back in the 1940s, and when this club was really jumping. And of course, you have this beautiful montage of photos that's evidence and history, and we don't want this history to be lost.
Yeah, and then so now it brings us here. It brings us here. So the 15th and the 16th. But before we get into the Black and Tan musical, what's your other history of writing plays and musicals?
I did a play 5 years ago called Jefferson Who Am I that was also premiered at the Langston Hughes. They've been very generous to my organization, to me as an individual artist. And also I want to give a shout out to the Department of Neighborhoods. They've been generous, and For Culture have been very generous. Jacob Smith, who works with For Culture, pretty much financed my sister's art show that played at Mohai earlier this year in February. So we're looking forward to continued partnerships with them and also with other institutions around Seattle.
Yeah, see, and that's amazing. So now we're here. Can you tell me some of the historians that have helped you get into this space? like of writing and directing?
Basically, I've always wanted to write and direct since I was a kid. I used to always notice that the last person that was on the screen was in the list of credits was the director. So that intrigued me about that position. Then, of course, I'm a movie buff. I love Steven Spielberg films, Scorsese, also Francis Coppola's The Godfather, one of my favorite movies. And
Not three though. Sorry,
what?
not Godfather 3.
Oh no, no, not three. Well, three is okay, but
Right.
it's not the original masterpiece. But anyway, I've always been intrigued with actors. I was an actor for a while. I started with the Civic Light Opera
Okay.
back in 1979. So now I'm aging myself
Here in Seattle.
here in Seattle.
Okay.
Yes. And I've done some plays as an actor, but my interest was always behind the scenes, and my passion is for writing and research, and that's the reason why a lot of my plays, in this play as well, span decades.
Yeah.
And this little play before that, Jefferson, spanned centuries because it's about Black history.
Yeah, and that is really important. It seems like there was a big erase of what's been like of our community over the years, and yes, with gentrification and other things that have impacted our space, right? And it's so much more than just and shout out to CD, but like I think people silo us there specifically, but we have to be able to find our space. So I'm just so happy to have you. As pretty much a compass to help navigate people to remember the Black and Tan, remember these things that were here. You acknowledge some of the people on the wall. Can you tell us about a couple of the other people that you've seen? It was. I'm sorry. It was so interesting.
Yeah, I see a young Ernestine Anderson at the very top.
And who is Ernestine Anderson?
Ernestine Anderson was a famous jazz singer from Seattle who also went to Garfield. She and Quincy Jones, along with Lionel Hampton and Ray Charles, all were in a band together. And so that's kind of interesting there. There's quite a few photos here that I even use in the montage in my show.
Okay.
Duke Ellington right there.
Okay.
And,
I wish I could look back, trying to look cute for the camera.
but it's just really interesting, and I wanted to keep this history alive in Seattle because it seems that there's an erasure there, and I want to make sure, along with Paul DeBarros, who also wrote the book that I did a lot of research with, to keep this history alive, along the Jackson Street corridor, which we now know as the International District.
Yeah, see, that is really important. So I do want to get into the cast with you. So we're going to get into talk a little bit about the cast and also how people can be able to support more of this, because everybody's going to want more, especially with you bringing this history to us. So we're going to get into that in just a few. You are watching A Day with Trae.
They're going to tell you about their experience, what they went through and what they seen as they participated both in the camp at Jackson, Mississippi, as well as the experience, the cultural experience in Montgomery, Alabama.
The film is the cherry on top. The trip was what mattered the most, and you heard these young kings talk about it.
And you can always make a difference in somebody's life by just talking to them.
Be kind and spread love to one another.
It just means so much to all of us, really, that we're a part of that trip, that you are all here to see it, because it was very impactful. I don't think anybody came back the same person that they were when they left for the trip.
These are opportunities we want to continue to offer because we are a family. We as a collective can drive the change that's needed to see baseball in West Jackson. It's up to y'all, right? So we're here as conduits to really help support you and really elevate the promise that you have to see baseball back in our community. And it's up to y'all, right? That's going to be that voice of reason, and that's going to talk to the community about what you need.
You're watching A Day with Trae. I'm here with the writer and director of the Black and Tan musical, Chris Harper. What's up, brother? Again.
How you doing
We just
again?
had to take a quick break. I needed some water. But I wanted to ask you, so the play is here. We're weeks away. Tell us about this cast.
We have a very high energy cast, I would like to say. We have a couple of griots that do poetry. We have a dynamic choreographer. This is her first play choreographing, and she's doing a fabulous job. We have a lot of young talent on this, and that's one of the things that excites me about doing these type of plays and doing any type of artistic venture, is the fact that you can bring along people who are young and talented and want to expand and want to learn and also growing their craft. And we're doing all of that. We had a wonderful table read last night. Um, it was our final table read, so now we're going to be in the theater rehearsing, and it's all coming together beautifully.
That is amazing. Now, how does it feel to be bringing this to life? To be bringing, it's like you're pretty much saying, remember us, right? You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. And this is stuff that we're not taught in school. So, after doing the research and forming the characters and writing the play, it's beautiful to see people actually reading your words and emulating the characters and the people who actually really live. That's the one thing that's different about this play than the last play, is that these people actually really lived. So it's kind of cool to kind of take a little peek down memory lane and kind of imagine what life was like in the days of the 40s and 30s and 50s, when the Black and Tan was really striving. It was really a well-known club for a long time in Seattle. Even after it shut its doors officially in 1966, it was still a club that people went to.
Do we know why it shut down?
Basically, it's very murky about that. I think it's just one of those things where either there was financial difficulties, but I would like to say that it didn't really shut down. It sort of faded away more than anything else.
Well, thank God for someone like you to keep it coming, bringing it back to life, right?
Right.
I think that's so important.
And the Esquires, even were part of that, and so we still have that. We have the Esquire Club here. We have the Black Elks as well, that have their club there in Rainier Beach. So the Black club scene is still very much alive in that aspect. Although we can always have more.
Yeah, we could add more. And I wanted to know a little bit more about what about that first play that you did? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Jefferson basically is about slave ghost that accosts one of the founding fathers in the afterlife and confronts him, basically Thomas Jefferson. And he's a distant relative to Sally Heming, who was, as we know, was Jefferson's mistress. And so he says, well, since you did this to my distant cousin and our ancestor, then this is what Black folks went through. Basically, at the end of Jefferson's life, he freed the children he had with Sally Heming, but he never freed the slaves.
Right.
So he was a big hypocrite and a coward, in my opinion. But this play just kind of explores Black history all the way back from pre-colonial to when we were Moors and all that in Africa, and then how we got accosted and enslaved here on American soil, and then where we're at today and how far we've come and where we need to go from there.
Yeah, and what was it like doing that play, right? Because that was your first go round. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
what
it was
that?
Exciting. It was I was scared half to death. It was intimidating, but we pulled it through. We didn't, in my opinion, I would have liked to have more time for rehearsals. But we were on a tight schedule, but we pulled it off. And I think that a lot of the people who were on that play brought their best to it. And with the time that we had, and we pulled it off, and it was a relief to me to say, okay, well, this is where I need to be. This is what I've wanted to do my whole life. My passion is for writing. I love to direct, and so it was a great experience for me. But it was a very I learned a lot. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, but it has to be a lot for you, right? Because as a writer, right? Do you feel sometimes that? How do you feel about Black writers and directors in the areas of plays here? Do you think that they get support?
Well, there's been a long time of non-support. I would say that I'm seeing now that there are more BIPOC projects that are being greenlit, and that's a great thing because so many of us have different voices and stories to be told, but we always see it from one point of view, which is usually through the white gaze. And to see it through the gaze of people who actually lived it and who look like you and I.
Can you break down a little bit of the white gaze for some community members who don't know?
Okay, the white gaze basically is from the white point of view. A lot of times white people will write for Black people, what they think that we would say. The dialogue, and a lot of times when I'm looking at some of these films and I can tell it's written by a white person, I'm kind of cringing, like that's not how that conversation would transpire. So that's why there's an importance for Black writers. Also, it's important for us to tell our stories from our point of view because we actually lived it,
right? Versus
someone else who can kind of fantasize and think, oh, well, maybe this is how this would have gone down. No, you don't know that because you're not us. So how can you really say that?
Right.
And so that's it's kind of the thing where, Hollywood whitewashes things to a degree. Instead of hiring, actors of color or trans actors to play trans people, they hire a male to play a trans person. Why not hire a trans actor to play that, or actress? That's why the work of Ryan Murphy and people in Hollywood now who are really trying to break down barriers, and they need writers to tell these stories, because every things that are told through the gaze of the people who are not of that culture gets watered down, and it gets retold. Then next thing you know, it gets recycled, and then it's totally not what it actually is, and it's not authentic. I can say, for instance, the story of the Titanic, for instance, just giving you an example, is a story that's told through the white gaze, but it's been told so many different times. Why not tell the story about the guy that was on the Titanic who was Haitian?
Yeah, right.
And who drowned with the others. We never get to see that. So I really believe that Seattle is really trying to change the narrative now, and give BIPOC and Black Indigenous people of color a chance and an opportunity to tell our own stories.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the main spaces that has always been open to do that is Langston Hughes.
That's correct.
Can you tell me what is it having that partnership with Langston Hughes? How do you feel within that space, knowing that they have always been advocating to uplift community voices? What is that?
I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's great that we still have an institution in the central area that are allowing our voices to be heard, giving us a space to rehearse, open up to the community, where they sponsoring like my show, which is a free community event. And we do feed you guys, by the way, on opening night.
All right.
Just throw that in there. But yeah, so that's very important. And it's of essential essence that we retain that, because, without Langston Hughes, a lot of these stories and shows will not be told or not be seen, or would have the opportunity, to be put on display as we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I when I think of the early days, I went to New Hope down the street. So we would go after church, there would be some type of play that was there. And we would just always just participate in whatever was there, their summer program. So I just think back to those memories, and and watching you go into this space and having the musical, it's just full circle. And just have really just appreciated how not only inclusive, but how much a compass the Langston Hughes is still is for community members. So shout out to the Central District. Shout out to Langston Hughes.
Yes, very much so.
I do want to know too. So you are a wonderful writer, but even outside of that, who inspires you? Tell me, family member, friend, community people. Is there anybody out there that you're just like, I appreciate, you want to shout them out?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people. It's too long of a list.
We got time.
Yeah, of course. But if you look on a national level, Spike Lee, the great Spike Lee, the independent filmmaker that he has become, and has shown us that we can make our own movies, raise our own money. He's been a great inspiration for me from the very first film of Do the Right Thing. I think you should have won the Palme
She gotta
d'Or.
have it.
Yeah.
She gotta have it.
Yeah. She's got to have it. But Do the Right Thing. That's what I was going to say. Thank you for correcting me. Do the Right Thing. Definitely should have won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. That movie is still relevant to this day. On a more local level, I would say that Isaiah Anderson and the work that he's doing with the youth here, has been a great inspiration, and has sparked me to do, to give me the extra push that I need to do what I do. And to, as things start off locally, and hopefully that will get bigger, and we'll continue to do this. We'll bring other people along. We'll have more voices out there, and I'm all for that. But my family inspires me.
Yeah, and your family has a history
yes.
of being ingrained in the community. Can you tell us a tad about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We sing as a choir as youth around the city. There's 13 of us.
Hold on, wait. I
Um,
thought it was 5. It's 13.
yes,
Okay.
yes, there is, and we sang in a choir through Mount Zion Baptist Church. We're big in church that way. Then we did a play together called Showboat.
Okay.
That's when I kind of got the acting bug, as they call it. And
Showboat, Old Man River Showboat.
yes,
Okay.
I
I was in that play too.
Yeah.
At the Paramount.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know all about it.
Yes.
Well, anyway, that's where I got the acting bug. And then I've had a lot of support from my friends. I used to write screenplays when I was in high school. And I would read it to them and they would be, yeah, Chris, I like that, but you can change this part. And I wrote one about black gangsters, which kind of brings me to the Black and Tan, which, writing about Noodle Smith. We don't go into great detail, but Noodle Smith did have a kind of a shady side, if you want to say it that way. But he was a brilliant entrepreneur and did a lot for the community. It had a heart of gold.
So what's his real name? Noodle Smith. Noodle Smith, or what did he have? Did he?
Yes, he does have a real name, and I won't reveal it yet.
Okay.
You got to come see the play.
Okay, I really can't wait to see this play. Now, I'm just so happy to have you here, but I want community to know what's going to be happening October 15th and 16th. So if you can do me a favor, about a minute, just look in the camera and let people know what's coming up next and how we can support.
Okay, well, what's coming up is my play. It's the Black and Tan musical. It'll be playing at the Langston Hughes from October 15th through the 16th. October 15th is opening night at 7:30, and there's a banquet afterwards. And then the next night will be a matinee, and it starts at 4:00. Doors open at 3.
I'm so happy that you came here, Chris. I appreciate you, the work that you do. I'm coming. I'm not coming for the buffet. I'm coming to support.
Okay.
I'm always eating, but I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your acknowledgement of this mural. Just watching you look at it just made me think about Owen Trae and the producers that work here and how important this mural is and how important our history is in this community. And for you to be bringing it back to life, bringing not just back to life, but back to community attention is so important. And, we see each other in passing, but you inspire me.
Thank you.
That is, and please, anything that we here can do to support and uplift this, please let us know. We thank you.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now,